Hi, you've reached the voicemail of Hannah Brett with Connect Call. Just leave a message and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks.
1 for more options.
Hey, Hannah. I got your number from our doctor. I have a young adult who needs treatment again. And why I say again is we have been through a few programs and I am so emotionally exhausted, almost financially exhausted. And I just, a lot of times I found that the people I was speaking to on the front end were not giving me the correct information, and he was probably in the wrong programs. And I just need a program where you can connect me to somebody who actually has a pulse and cares and will help my son. If you can get back to me, that'd be great.
Hi, this is Hannah Brett on another episode of Connect Call, where I often say, don't make fun of this tagline, by the way, guys, where I often say that I do not have a clinical background, but I do have a PhD for picking up the phone for families in crisis. And on this episode, which is very important, I think, and I've been wanting to do this episode for a minute, is really to talk about it, the admissions process. So I'm very fortunate to have two of my favorite people here. I've got Kurtis. I'm going to always say your last name wrong. Girard. Oh, I did it right.
Yeah.
Kurtis.
Yes.
And I met at Visions. Kurtis was the admissions liaison for some years at Visions, and now is the co-founder of Desert Willow Wellness. And Jen Sawyer, who also I adore, I met, and she's the Chief Development Officer at Driftwood in Austin, Texas. Both amazing facilities, and both you'll find in the show notes for more information. But I really wanted my experts in admissions to be able to answer these questions. So, guys, I think I'm just going to start just from the beginning in that, I think what I have found in 20 years of marketing is if I could shake families or show them what questions to ask admissions if your child is needing residential treatment or even PHP or IOP. I always say to families, you should have more than one option and you should know which questions to ask because this is a major investment. Unfortunately, what I find is they don't ask the right questions and they just look at the sticker price and you don't know what services are included. You don't know a lot, so I've even created, which I'm going to put on this episode as well, 10 to 20 questions for young adult and adolescent programs of questions to ask, but important questions that need to be answered before you make this decision. So I guess, what do you think is like the biggest misconception families have about the admissions process when they're starting this?
I think they think it's sales. Go, Kurtis.
Yep. I was going to say the same thing. They think it's some sort of sales.
Can we rate?
Right?
Yeah.
And that, at least the way that I think Jen, my understanding of Jen and myself is that it's actually a couple different components, right? Melded into one, right? Really, we're trying to build rapport. We're trying to get a sense of what's going on. We're trying to get a sense of how we can help affect change in this person's life, whether they're the right fit for us or somewhere else.
Right.
I live in this field. I know a lot of different variants that the naked eye won't be able to see, right? That Google won't put on the front page, right?
Right.
And there's a lot of oddities and nuances that might shift the direction of where this person might fit best, right?
Right.
And my job is to understand that.
Jen,
right?
What do you think are some of the misconceptions?
Agreed. I think it's like they do think it's a sales thing. I do think that they think we're trying to hook them in, right? And sell something. And when I first started doing admissions, right, my first admissions job, I said, I'm not a salesperson, right? And then I learned over time, it's nothing about sales. It's about connecting with a human being. It's about connecting with a family. It's about gathering every bit of information outside of finances or anything else. Like, who are y'all as a family? How did you get on this phone call with me today? Like, how did we get here? Right? Who is your loved one outside of this moment of crisis?
Right.
And what I always tell families is whether you're a fit for my facility or not, I'm sticking with you. to make sure
Thank you.
we find the right place for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I love that you said that, because I've always said, as someone in marketing over the years, and I've tried to teach other reps this, that it's an honor for families to be calling us and to just give them a phone number. It just kick them, if they're not right for your program, we should be connecting them personally for a warm welcome to the next program. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And the follow up, because as you guys probably know, a lot of these families they'll call admissions, but then they might be in this, what we call analysis paralysis, where they're not ready to go with this. And I guess with the next question, like, where do you feel like, what are some of the signs a family should start exploring treatment? And why I say this is, I stress to all families, and if nothing else is said today, I need it to be said. You do not call admissions. I mean, you can, but we don't like when you call admissions in crisis. You don't want to make this decision in crisis, So I always tell families, even if you're not ready today, this is informational interviewing. Like, let's find the program for your loved one, because yes, we can bring somebody in 24 hours, but it would be better if not in crisis. So what are signs that families should start exploring these options of calling admissions?
I think if it's a thought, if it's like, hey, this starting to seem a little outside of my scope of support, right? We're like a free consult, We're really a free
really
consult.
are. You guys really are. Yeah.
We're going to answer the phone at all hours of the day. Someone's going to connect you. They're going to get some information. They're going to start to move the needle in getting you answers that you're looking for, right? Or asking you questions that you might not be even thinking about, right? Which is going to help you start to formulate. And the more comfortable you can get with that understanding from an outside perspective, right? It's going to actually lessen in my experience, going to lessen the difficulty of when a crisis does occur.
Correct.
Right?
And also I want to stress, and then Jen, love to hear from you as well, is, what's beautiful about really good admissions people is you can call them, and if you need an interventionist, if you need a transport, they will hear also in hearing a story. You guys are not strong enough. And I say this in the nicest, or they don't, not strong enough, but as a family, you guys need some help, not strong enough. They need help in how to message and how to do this and how to wrap their loved one and bring them in. Because as I've always said, and I can't say it enough, unless I'm wrong, 99.99% of adults, young adults, adolescents, they're not willing and wanting to walk through this door. But we need to, show them what they need and they will see in the process when they're in treatment and surrender to it. But a lot of times we are needing to intervene and kind of, like, my mother didn't have an interventionist, but I remember her saying, here's the deal. Because she listened to my family therapist. Damn it. She said, you don't have to go, but here's what's going to happen. We're not paying anymore for the apartment in New York. Your credit cards are cut up, and I'm pulling back on you. And I always say, nobody loved me as much as my mom. And if you did, you can do this. And I remember going, well, what happens if I get up there and I want to leave? She goes, walk out the door, but no one's coming to get you. Like, you have to trust this right now. And she made it really difficult for me to not go. And like I always say, and this is also another line I'm probably going to put on some merch, whoever has the pesos has the say-sos. So
it's one of your taglines.
It's a good one.
That's fantastic.
I've been hearing that tagline
it's so
for
true.
years.
I don't know who told me this years ago, but I literally have said that to so many families who feel so powerless.
That's so cool.
Jen, I'll start with you. Like, what information helps an admissions team determine whether a program is a good fit for them? Like, what information do you typically need from the family, except for being completely honest, which helps?
Completely honest. And like, just going back a little bit to like your question, right? I think then what helps with calling admissions sooner rather than later is the navigation, right? Like we can help them navigate what, what's actually going on with their loved one. Like you said, getting them in touch with a family interventionist. They think intervention and they get really scared, but like the boundaries and such you talked about with your mom, a lot of parents, families don't even understand what they're willing or able to commit to, right?
Correct.
So like bringing in someone to help them. So those are all the things we can do. As far as the information, I spend so many hours on the phones with families,
I
with
commend you
loved
both.
ones, with outside providers that are
Yeah.
involved with the case, therapists, or
Right.
if there's already an interventionist involved. And it's gathering information. Like I will spend hours with you just talking about what's going on, what's the history, when did it start, what were they like as a child, what were their successes in life, when did this happen, was there some event, was it a traumatic thing?
Correct.
Just gathering and gathering and gathering, right?
Right.
And then determining from that. Like I listen and I gather all this stuff, and then I talk about what we do or what other programs do.
Can do.
I never go into who Driftwood is, right?
No. Right.
It's like, who are you as a family?
Yeah. Right.
Right. And like,
Because it's better for the family as well as for the treatment center. You know, you want to make sure that you have the right fit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes. And if we're not the right fit, then like who? And like this sounds maybe more, you know, like maybe they're more OCD, but we don't know really what that OCD is. Maybe some like diagnostics are warranted. Maybe, I mean, there's just so many ways to take it. But you have to get a full understanding of who you're talking to. And that goes way back. It goes into childhood. Again, like successes in life. How are they showing up right now? Was it just like they recently retired and their kids left, you know, and shit hit the fan, right? Like there's just so many aspects to all of it and trying to figure out the right place and for someone. It's not black and white ever. And every person you talk to is different, right? They don't fit into a box. It's not cookie cutter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, and I think also that, you know, you touched on, which is important. I remember, and I know this to be true with like adolescents or young adults. I always try to ask families or for families to speak on when was there this shift in them?
Yes.
Because typically you will find there is a shift because something has happened, right?
Yes.
They've been bullied.
Yes.
There's something really traumatic that's happened and the behavior
Yes.
changes, the use starts. And just to stress again, you know, all this substance abuse, eating disorder, self-harm, all of it is self-medicating, right? For mental health and trauma untreated. So,
absolutely.
But obviously, like Jen was saying, we have to know who this client is because let's say if their eating disorder is really active, you guys may not be the right place first. They need to kind of get stabilized.
Right.
Kurtis, is there any information you need from a family?
I'm always looking for folks to share enough with me so that I can understand like what is like the hang up content where we're distracting from what's going on, right? That are maybe features and good leverage points, right, clinically. But what's the plot, right? And I think a lot of times families tend to kind of get in a circle loop of the content of like, oh, well, they have this one friend or this one girlfriend or this boyfriend or this friend group, or we moved towns and we've got to like overhaul a lot of things when really there's just a missing component of connection oftentimes, or there's some harm that needs to be supported, or there's something that needs to be listened to or uncovered, right? And so I always think about that and really trying to help folks get more aligned with the plot of why are they calling? What is happening? You know, like what is their goal? Their goal is ultimately to help their loved one. Right.
Totally.
And if I'm really resentful about this new relationship in their life and I want to kind of like, you know, categorize this person as this bad seed in my person's life, we're getting away from the fact that they maybe need some support and some skill set on how to identify and discernment within their
Mhm.
relationships,
Right.
right? That's the plot. The plot is they don't know what's safe and not, and what's in kind of coming into their space. And so, how do we educate that person and help them and
Mm,
give them the tools and the skill set to be able to do that? So when they grow into from a teenager to adulthood, right?
mhm,
To your other point, talking about like folks don't come to treatment, quote unquote, willing. Even folks that say, especially teens, when I work with
mm,
teens, like
mm,
the kids that they're like, well, their parent will call me, they're willing, they want this, right?
mm,
100 out of 100 times they walk into treatment, they see
mm.
what it looks like, they talk to one or two staff members, and they turn around and they go, "Can I talk to you, mom or dad, alone? Let's get away from these
Yeah.
people,"
Right.
right?
So true.
What we need to do, this sounds great, but what we need to do is we need to leave here immediately. We need to
Right.
go get some ice cream and make a decision about this in like 6 to 9 months,
Right.
right?
Right.
And
Mhm. Mhm.
and so even that, like folks don't get, asking someone to engage clinically is scary. It's a lot,
Yeah.
right? It's a lot
Yeah.
of
Mhm.
challenging stuff that's going to happen.
They're like, we need to act now. They're willing to go today. And I'm like, okay, well, they probably, if they're using substances, are coming down. And so they're willing. And tomorrow's a new day. So
Tomorrow's a new day.
right. Or we just have to slow down the process,
Yes.
because this willing or not willing can change within an hour, right? And
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
the most important thing is whether someone is willing or not, you as the loved one, family, employer, everybody is prepared to just kind of give the same messaging and
Mhm.
and encourage this person that this is where we're going, and
Mhm.
you know um
Like an
Jen.
example, recently I worked with a family, right, with a young adult
Oh
and
yeah.
in college, right? Kind of going off the rails, super talented artist, all these things. Her parents were split. So you've
Yeah.
got mom and then you've got dad over here who's throwing the money and mom is seeing that she's going off the rails. This
Right.
family spent, I mean, it probably took 4 months for them to actually go to treatment, but they spent all of that time, mom and stepdad, they actually flew out, came to see us, toured, met with clinical, talked to our psychologist. They went to other places, did the same thing. So
Wow.
when it really blew up, she was
Yeah.
ready to go where she needed to go. Right?
Right. Which I love that you
Yes.
said that, because I say this to my parent friends all the time. I go, if you guys are traveling around the country looking at colleges, this is kind of no
Right.
different. Like this
Yeah.
to me is
Yeah.
like, especially with young adults, like this is a very important investment, where yes,
Yes.
insurance can pay maybe a
Yes.
portion of it, but typically there is going to be a cost out of your pocket. Therefore, you
Yes.
need to do your due diligence, because,
Yes.
and which I hate, because if people don't, then I have families who come to me going, I'm exhausted. I've been through like 4 programs already, and I've spent this much
Mm-hmm.
money. And a lot of the reason,
Mm-hmm.
because they're either rushing it or they're not asking the right questions,
Yeah.
or leading
Right.
into my next question, there's a lot of programs out there that there's a lot that do a
Mm.
lot of the good work, right? And there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
programs out there that maybe don't. And,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, I always try to identify some red flags for families if they're calling admissions teams. And I often say,
Mm-hmm.
if they're willing to fly you out or the client,
No.
no. If they say without you even giving the insurance or just giving the insurance, oh, we're taking it. It's good. You're good. Just come in. No. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
what are some other ones that, when bad admissions people speak up?
I mean,
Thanks.
if you feel really pressured in that,
Yeah.
right? Like if you feel really pressured, right? That just feels, if they're moving at a cadence that your nervous system can't
Right.
handle, right?
Right.
I think those are pretty big flags, right?
Right.
We should be leading folks, not pushing them,
Right.
Exactly.
right?
Right.
Exactly.
I love that people go and do that. I think that's too. I like doing treatment math with people. They're like, well, we spent all this stuff, so treatment doesn't work, right? And I'm
Right.
like, okay, well, like, how do we, or I can't afford that, but yet in the last 3 years we've, had these lawyers, these 4 cars, these
Right.
apartments,
Mhm.
right? And when
Right.
you really look at that,
Amen.
right, they
Yes.
generally, and I'm like, what would you spend to stop that problem,
Right.
right?
Or,
Mhm.
Band-Aids, it's like worth it, but not like,
right. Or I had a
not
family
surgery.
recently where, they were saying they didn't have the money, but their son was going to a private university and we were
Right.
taking him out actually. And I was like, guys, I already know what that private university costs per semester. Add the books, add the allowance, add everything that you are paying for that semester. And I promise you, if you just write the check to treatment instead of them, it's pretty much the same, if not less.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And at the
Mhm.
end of the day, it will be less because if not intervened, this doesn't get better, So
Ultimately, the money to college and the private university or the apartment near the university is going down the tubes anyways, right?
anyway, right. It's a
Yeah.
waste of
Because
money.
their life is gonna blow up. And so,
Right. Right.
first
Yeah,
things
so I
first.
think just again to the point is like it's not necessarily about the money, it's about how you in crisis slow that down and understand
Right.
Yes.
where you're
Yeah.
putting that, right? Like that's
Right.
our job. Our job is to help you connect those dots about
Right.
Mhm.
like here's some behaviors that are maybe not getting you towards your goal, right?
Right.
That you can be accountable to, right? You're not bad. You're just either no one gave you the book when you brought your kid home from the hospital because it doesn't exist. I have a 9-month-old. They didn't say, "Hey, watch out when they're 16,
Right.
Yeah.
X, Y, and
Right.
Z," right? Um, and so there's that reduction of shame in that is like, look, people get to us, and our job is to not add that to you, right? Our
Exactly.
job is to help
Yes.
normalize some of this process,
Right.
Yes.
and like we live in it, and we're like unshocked by a lot of it, right? And
N-
so I
Nothing can
always think
shock us,
like,
right, guys? Like nothing.
yeah,
I've heard it all.
I've heard it all.
I
I
really
think it's like
have.
the most lay back and fun assessment you could have,
Right.
right? Of what's
Right.
going on, right?
Right.
It's like,
Mhm.
oh, oh, did you tell him this? Oh, how many times have you told them that? Okay, like,
Yeah.
what's the reaction that gets there, right? Does it
Right.
get you towards anything? Do you feel good about it, right?
Right.
But yeah, I
I
think
think
like
it's
the pressure piece on that.
That's a
Sorry,
good
agreed.
one.
yeah,
Yeah, don't be sorry. I think the same. I think that if someone is rushing you to get to their facility, that's a red flag, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think that slowing it down and taking the time to make sure this is the right fit, and if it's not, like, hey, maybe you want to explore these other places also.
Mm-hmm.
Slow it down. And I also I feel for families, right?
Mm.
Parents, they don't know how to
And a good
navigate this
admissions
stuff.
person or team should be inviting you to look at other programs. That's another
And
piece.
which I do all the time. As
Right.
a mother who put a daughter through treatment,
Right.
working in this field, I had to take my professional hat off because it becomes very different when it's your own child, right?
Exactly.
And there is like Kurtis mentioned, that shame, right? Like what have I done wrong? What didn't I do right? And so navigating that with them, I had to lean on people in this field that I knew and that I trusted
Right.
to help me navigate that situation.
Yeah. So true.
Yeah.
No.
I think
So go on.
just to these points is like once you put your loved one in treatment and you sign that dotted line, right?
Mm,
Their emotional state is going to fluctuate throughout that
Yes.
treatment, right?
yeah.
And their skill set is to leverage you to generally to rescue them, right? And
Right.
so when you sign
Mhm.
on that dotted line, if you haven't done that due diligence, you haven't seen it, you haven't gone there, you haven't seen some differences and chose it, you're gonna feel your experience outside while your loved one is being treated,
Right.
right, is
Right.
gonna be a lot more bumpy, right? Because
Right.
you are like, oh, there's a lot of question marks. Like, I never even saw a
Mhm.
bed,
Yeah, I didn't ask
Mhm.
right?
about
They're telling
what the
me,
clinical
Right.
program looked like. I didn't ask if,
Right.
you have mastered level
yeah,
Right.
professionals. I didn't ask,
Right.
yeah,
any of the
Is there
right
a
they're telling
family
me that,
questions.
therapist, right?
Right.
yeah,
Is there a family therapist that's going to help navigate the family while
So
or to
you
like they're
know,
only
your
feeding me
child's
hot
in treatment?
pockets.
are you
You know,
Yeah.
right? I get that a lot too.
they're only feeding me hot pockets, and there's a leaky
Yes.
pipe
Right.
in my bedroom, and if you didn't go
Right.
in there and like check it out, like how are you
Right.
gonna
Right.
know? Your fear, all that stuff is gonna come just like, you
Right.
know.
I had a mom
there's
once
not
call
always-
me
support.
to say that she couldn't believe we don't give our kids pillows. I was like, why don't you, hey, before we everything that Junior says, and again, and I have to stress this, your child or your loved one is not a liar, okay? But they're not a bad person. But here's what I do know to be true. And if you're in recovery, you know this, whether it's for mental health or addiction, when you are going into a treatment program, you're still wanting to protect your self-coping skills and what has worked for you.
Yes.
And you want to get out a lot of times. So you will say what needs to be said to get out. So it's also, I think, on the admission side and getting them ready is really about I remember at some of the programs I worked with, we were like, okay, when your loved one comes in, let's say for this young adult program, they're going to have a phone right away. Okay. So we're going to talk through a little bit and get you comfortable and have you meet with, talk with a family liaison before, because that phone is going to ring. We can't stop that. What we can help is, your messaging and
yes, it's a therapeutic intervention when the phone call happens, right?
And to be educated on that. Yeah. What are some just a couple key questions that everyone should ask admissions?
I mean,
No, go.
There's what's my person, but get to know that person. Why do you work there?
Yeah.
You could work other places,
right?
Why do you work there?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's I'm the product of this. Right. Sometimes it's, I've done some places and I wanted to be in an environment that I could help people in this way. Right. But yeah, I mean, I think the environment, obviously the clinical programming, whether you understand that or not, ask them why that matters.
Right.
I think I'll let you finish. Do you have 3?
That's it. Yeah.
No, you don't have to say 3. I was kidding.
I have 72 and a half, actually.
Yeah.
113.
Yeah.
This is important to me. I do think ownership is important, and I think it matters. I think when you have, and again, I want to be careful. I don't want to disparage places, and I want to make sure there are families that need to go to in-network programs that may be owned by private equity. I think I would want to know who is there, who's there daily, who's hands-on, who is seeing, I love private owners because they're there and they're involved. But I'm not, again,
they sometimes have great mustaches.
And they do. Hell yes.
What did you say, Kurtis?
Sometimes they have great mustaches.
Yeah. Great mustaches.
I think how this has become important to me over my years working in the field. How I am treated as a staff member, right?
That's a good question.
How am I asked to care for myself? How is the staff taking care of themselves? That's something important to me. Also, who is your daily person? How many times are they going to be seeing their therapist? And how do they know your loved one individually? Again, I always throw out that cookie cutter statement because I don't think treatment is cookie cutter. I think Johnny coming in today doesn't fit the same box as Michael that came in yesterday, right? And how are they actually looking at your loved one?
Right.
In what ways do they look and understand the core underlying issues of your loved one, right? And they're not just saying, go to this and go to that and do this or else. Right. Does that make sense?
And I think on a personal note, because I do talk about my personal story sometimes on this podcast, but part of my journey was, and even 8-9 years ago, I put myself in residential treatment again to do a 3-week assessment on my mental health and my medication. And I'll tell you right now, I did not ask the right questions. I literally, everything we are discussing today, I did not do.
Yeah.
And even being a professional in the industry, it's so interesting. When you're doing it for others, it's one thing, but it's you or yours. I went to a place, they took my insurance, and then I was there and I was like, wow, I'm seeing like 4 different doctors. There's not one psychiatrist that is following me through this process, right? Or I only see my therapist this amount of time, or and I didn't ask the right questions. Therefore, I didn't really get much out of those 3 weeks. I really didn't. I got a lot of med changes, and looking back, I'm mad that I didn't ask the right questions. You know what I mean?
I think there's buzzwords, right, in the industry, like, oh, we're individualized. I kind of hate that word, but there are programs that actually are.
There
right?
are programs that really are.
Right. And I hate the dual diagnosis and even trauma, like trauma informed, right? Like I would dive into what does that actually mean?
Right.
Exactly.
What does that mean? Can you describe to me
what do you do for
what
trauma?
that looks like?
Right.
What do you do for trauma? What do you do for psychiatry? What do you do that makes it individualized?
Thank you. How big is your milieu? Because I always say there's no price tag on a small milieu. Like I can't stress that enough. The more I've done this, and there's so many programs I do love, but I will say if you're able to find a program with a smaller milieu, you will get more of that individual attention. And there's just really no price tag on that for me.
No.
What are the biggest mistakes you think families make when they're like evaluating treatment centers? They don't ask the right questions.
They don't ask the right questions.
I think they're oftentimes driven by one aspect of
price tag.
And usually the price tag.
Yeah.
Right?
The price tag. Right. Absolutely.
But it can vary from like, oh, I want somewhere that only treats men or women or something like that. It can have that, but they'll kind of blinder a lot of the other aspects to that. Right. And why that might be important for that person or not. Right. I think that's it. I look at it as that the price tag is a layer, right? That's going to filter. That's a filter. The person's demographics are a filter, right? Their geographic location is going to filter. Their like involvement of the family is going to filter. Their clinical composition is going to filter, and that's going to help you get to a few solid options to look like, right? And so, okay, can we look at the whole country price wise, or can we look at 10% of the market, right? Of the field. It's okay. It's good to know that, right? But I look at it that way, if that makes sense.
Jen, thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely, I mean, I agree a lot with what Kurtis said. I definitely think they create barriers. I mean, and some of this is real, right? Finances are real. So, but it's also like, hey,
you have to know what you're paying for.
You have to know what you're paying for, which is why I never lead with finances. And even if that person never ends up at my facility, it's let me know as much as I can know about you and your family. And if it comes down to finances, please let me connect you. To places that I have seen, known, trust, like
based on what you've gathered.
Met their clinical, amazing. Have enough information that I can connect you, like you said, warmly, right? I'm not just going to give you a facility phone number. I'm going to call that person for you and explain everything going on with your family. And then I'm going to connect the two of you, right?
Yeah. I mean, I found a lot of time, I'm sure you guys see this too. If you're representing or working for a treatment center, you might be kind of in the same pond with a few other people that are what we call the competitor, but not competitor. I guess like same sort of, I don't know, little similar programming and stuff like that, demographic. But what was so frustrating to me is with young adult and adolescent programs I've worked for is they would be comparing us to, we're looking at you and then these two, which, just, and what was, they're like, but they're cheaper, than you, or, and I understand price is a part of it, but then I'll always say to the family, are you asking these questions though? They may be cheaper, but find out why they're cheaper. You know what I mean?
That's exactly what I say. Yes. Here are the questions you should ask. And these are the things you should know about that place. Right.
Right. You need to, you can't just look at a price tag. So I think the main thing too is the biggest mistake families make is rushing this. Like, again, we can take a family in crisis, but it'd be a lot better if we talked to you before. And most of the time, I'd like to say you probably know there's a problem going on. So, it's always good to just call and investigate and do this homework, instead of just waiting until some sort of shoe to drop or for it to get really bad before you call, because with the urgency, you're not going to ask the right questions. You are going to just look at cost. You don't do an admission on Saturday? Well, we can't come in because we have to come in tomorrow. You know what I mean? And it's just, I think if you can slow the train down and just do this work, because yeah, it's the most important thing.
Making knee-jerk reaction decisions, right? Like in a crisis mode, as anyone would know, and I have been there and done it, right? With my own loved ones or through grief or what have you, right? Not just taking a pause and thinking like this is a life. Could be a one shot, right?
Yeah.
It could also prevent you from going over and over and over again through this.
Right.
And so, like, take a pause.
Right.
And see how meaningful it is to do it the right way, right?
I mean, we can work really quickly, right?
Yeah.
At our pace,
Yeah.
right? Because we know the steps that we need to walk through,
Right.
right? If you align to that, right? And I think like intuition tells folks the best, right? But when there's a crisis going on, it's really hard to listen to that, right? Because I'm all kind of disorganized. I'm worried. I'm fear. I'm so layered. And do I say this? Should I not say this? Can I say this? Is that the right thing? And so, a professional who has seen hundreds of those things and can remain calm and there can help you move at a pace that's appropriate to the situation when we understand, right? And the only rushing is if we have to rush to the hospital.
Right.
Agreed.
And in a subacute setting, you're not that, right?
And ask the questions, because a lot of times I feel that, they're pretty websites or like they're leading with, oh, you can have a puppy or, you're going to be on the
we're
beach.
Luxury. Yeah.
Yeah. We're luxury. But I have to tell, and I'll say, because I even this week was dealing with a couple cases actually, where families were looking at faith-based treatment centers. Nothing against faith at all. But I also believe that all those centers need to have a clinical foundation. So to ask those questions, because that is important, you know what I mean? And really, and I've even, it's funny as we're talking, like I've messed up so much in my life, even with my due diligence for like a new job. I didn't do homework, and got there and was like, wow, they don't have a clinical program, or wow, I don't really like how they're doing treatment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you need to slow this down, and also, as I stress to parents all the time, even though if your neighbor had success at a program, that's great. But again, everybody is different and the individual needs are different. And so don't just automatically go there because Johnny next door did great. You know what I mean?
I worked with this family recently, and I just use that as an example, right? Because super, very anxious, very scared parents, hypervigilant, right? They did do their research ahead, and then crisis moment happened. But the crisis was pretty, there was some mental health and some mental health officers called. And then it's just like, dad was very much trying to force it, right? Get on the phone with him, and he's calmer now. And I just said, listen, you have to listen and trust me. You have to.
Yes.
You cannot force this. You cannot force your child in at the wrong time or in the wrong place based on what's happening with him. Right.
Right.
So I don't know if that's
no, and
helpful.
I think, that has been and still is to this day the most frustrating thing about our jobs is I truly believe we have the only careers in the world where families come and ask for help and resources, and a lot of times don't follow the recommendations.
Don't follow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Or debate us on
Like
it.
they come to
Mhm.
us for the expert knowledge and just the information and still want to do it their way. And it
Mhm.
sounds really corny and all of us have heard it, but like I always say, like, if you had cancer and you had chemo, you needed chemo, you'd want to go to the best,
Right.
best in the country to get that treatment. Two things would happen. One, you would follow the doctor's recommendation and you
Right.
wouldn't just stop going to chemo because you were feeling better. And
Mhm.
I can't stress this enough. Like and our insurance companies don't help sometimes with understanding that that behavioral health is the same as physical health, but we're dealing with a disease of the brain, whatever it is, right? And so it's so important that when you call us, especially once and you are entrusting with
Mhm.
that program to move
Mhm.
forward, follow all recommendations. Really follow.
My least
And that's
favorite
what I do.
question that families, sorry, Curtis, I think
It's
that
okay.
might be not as important as other questions they should be asking
Right.
is, what are your outcomes?
That's the
Well, our
worst.
outcomes are based on
Right.
you all following clinical recommendations
And your
as a
participation
family
in the
and your
program.
right.
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 Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, and also
yeah.
understand that like we know what to get like most places. If you have enough time and like money, you can figure out what Google wants to see so I can get in front of someone. So that a
Right.
treatment center could get in front of someone. Those
Right.
things are not that diverse, right? You said
Right.
some of the taglines, right? Individualized care, like the levels of care, like how I position that, right? The
Right.
phone call takes that further about whether that holds up. And and when you understand the nuance of this particular program's culture, when you put this focus, right, you can understand whether it's going to be more of a fit or less of a fit than from your neighbor dying, right?
Right.
And if they did, and so I think that that's important.
I think an
Um,
important, sorry.
oh, the last thing on the outcomes is like you can ask me of the outcomes, right? What are those based on? You talked about the family engagement, right? Well,
Right.
oftentimes it's based on a biased understanding of my
Right.
Right.
program activity,
Right.
right? And so, I, like, we're going to utilize as standard care evidence-based practices, and we're going to apply them, which have non-biased outcomes, right? And when
Mhm.
those things are applied, right, with the
Right.
full family's investment, right, and
Right.
commitment to that, then they work,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
When things distract from that,
Right.
they don't,
Right.
or it becomes harder. You know?
Right. And
Right.
what were you going to say, Jen?
I feel like that another really important question that might get missed is talk about aftercare. Talk about
Yes.
discharge planning, right? Like you're not
Mm-hmm.
sending your child or your loved one to treatment for 30 days and it's done. It's not
It's
like
so
that,
not
right?
done, you
Like,
guys. It's so
yeah.
not done. It is
Yeah. So
just
like
getting
what comes
sober.
next?
Yeah. Or
Right.
clearing.
We didn't
Yeah.
get here overnight.
No.
We're not getting it out of overnight. Like
Right.
6 years
Right.
of, mental health challenges is not going to be solved in 30 days. We
Right.
can start to
Right.
build a foundation. We can start
Right.
to have a better understanding and strategy.
Right.
We can
Right.
actually start to build some skills and some like nervous system
Right.
regulation. And
No, and I tell families all the time, I think I do, that like, I think that 30-day model was designed by the military because that was their leave, but there's no documentation that
Is that
backs it.
true?
Yes. But
Wow.
I'm not against 30-day anything. My point is it's a piece of the puzzle. And I think
It's
also
just the start.
it's just the
It's a
start.
scratch at the surface, you know?
Yes. And I think,
Yeah.
like even when I'm very, 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 very careful of where I refer for just mental health treatment, simply because if
Right.
anyone's just 30 days, I'm like, dude, an antidepressant, a new one will take 4 to 6 weeks to
Mhm.
kick off.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
it's, and this is a process. And I think also,
Mhm.
I think two things. One, I think it is important, and thank you for talking about the aftercare. A lot of times I find that if you, as an admissions team, you're doing a family a disservice if you are taking kind of their every month, all the money for this starting place.
Absolutely.
And then they're
Absolutely.
left
Yeah.
with nothing for aftercare. And the aftercare, whether it's
Mhm.
extended care, whether it's IOP at home, whether it's case management, you name
Right.
it, therapy, you need to plan out those resources, you know,
Absolutely.
at least for a year. And I'm saying it doesn't need to be a year for everybody, but at least for a year, you need to know how your money is going to be spent, you know,
Yes.
and it's very important. And it's a great, great thing if you do have an admissions person you're speaking to that does want to talk about aftercare and discharge and all, how does that work? And if they have any, you know, on campus, if there's a next phase or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I also think it's very important for especially families to ask, because it's like what you said about the outcomes. What is the family piece? You know, is there
Right.
family therapy? How is the family
Yes.
involvement? Because, you know, as I was saying to these parents yesterday, guys, if you can't even make the tiny shift, how can we ask Junior to make this tiny shift?
Right.
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 And we need everybody to make a tiny shift for this to be effective
Right.
and for this to work, and that this is a family thing, you know? It's not just dropping your loved one off and being the
Absolutely.
identified patient and asking us to fix it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
If
Yes.
for the three of us are in a situation, right, and we all make a 10% shift, right? Collectively, that's a 30% shift in the problem,
Right.
right? And
Yeah.
right, and so whatever shift any person could be, it actually adds to that process.
Mhm.
You
Right.
know,
Right. It's so
Yeah.
important. It's
and
really
needing support to do
important
that.
and it's frustrating when I've had families, you know, with young adults who get really mad because this isn't happening at this time, or why did they leave? And now they're like run and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, I'll check in with them and I'll be like, when was the last time you were met with the family therapist? You know, did you go to these support groups we asked you to go?
Right.
You know,
Right.
how's
Yeah.
your own recovery doing? Because, you
Mhm.
know, everyone's a part of this. You know what I mean?
Right.
I remember it was annoying, but my mom, I remember one time on a call when I was in treatment, I was suffering and I was just like, I want out. And she's like, well, I'm sorry you're suffering, you know, but here's what I'm going to ask you to do, because I'm going to do it myself. She's like, I'm going
Right.
to go to my Al Anon meeting tonight and ask for a number so I can talk to somebody when I'm struggling, because they can understand where I'm coming from. So I
Mhm.
need you to reach out to your counselor or someone in your community and do the same thing, because as much as I love you, I can't help you in this, you know?
Mhm. It's important. I think it, like, again, like going back to my own daughter also, right? Like showing up when there was a family group, and then there was like a
Showing
family
up.
group with just parents, and then there was a family group
Yes.
with her where I would get
Right.
my ass handed to me sometimes,
But
right?
it's so important.
Yeah.
But it
So
was like
important.
showing up and showing her, I'm in it with you, right?
Thank
Like,
you. Yep.
I'm in it with you. I'm committed to this. I'm committed to you,
Yeah.
right?
And
I'm
growth is
committed to
uncomfortable.
changing.
Yeah. And what?
Yeah.
Growth is uncomfortable,
Oh my
right?
gosh. Yeah.
It's
This
so
is
So
uncomfortable
And I
uncomfortable,
think
and
that's the
you
scary.
know?
hardest thing, especially, and
Yeah.
we can go off on a tangent on this, but
Yeah.
I think definitely with this generation of, and not all parents, but a lot of parents with this gentle parenting where they are so terrified, or they don't want their kid to be ever uncomfortable, and that trumps everything.
Yes.
This is
Yes.
very difficult for them to understand and to walk through,
Yes.
you know? Listen, this has been great. But before we end,
Okay.
I do want to ask you one last question. I ask everybody this, you know, if you have a family on the phone right now, and before they get off, if there's one thing you want them to hear, if nothing else, what would it be? Take your time.
That's
Take your time.
channeling God.
Kurtis, got any ideas what you would say? Or
I was
what
taking
are,
my time. Don't pressure me.
right.
Don't pressure. I'm feeling pressured.
I
I'm
think
gonna
what
call a different treatment program.
what would I want them to know? I think what I would want them to know is that there is a solution
Right.
that there is hope, that there
Thank
are
you.
answers.
Yes.
I don't self-disclose a ton, but if I'm working with a family and they've got a child, and I do share. I have a daughter who's 8 years sober and who's a mother today,
Right.
right? And I've been through all there, so there's hope and
Right.
there's a solution.
Yes.
And I am never going to not pick up this phone again. now
Thank
that we
you.
have
We're not going
connected.
anywhere, you
I
guys.
am not leaving you. I am
Right.
not leaving you. Whether you
Right.
come to my facility or not, I'm not
Right.
leaving you. And
Right.
we will,
And that's why you
there
work
is a
so
path
hard, Jen.
forward.
Right.
But I mean it. There's a
No,
path
it's
forward, right?
it's
There
true.
is a path forward, and how do we figure that out? And yeah,
And even when
that's the part I'm
families,
passionate about.
no, it's true.
Yeah.
Even parents who are literally financially and emotionally exhausted because they've been through all these programs, and our program may be the last stop. I really
Yes.
stress to them, like you just said, like, guys, there's so much hope. Please know this. Don't give
Yes.
up.
Yeah.
We've got this. Keep going. Take the information, call us back, but we're not going anywhere, but just know
Right.
there's
Yeah.
a lot of hope.
Yeah.
Curtis,
Yeah, I like people to understand, like, just because right now your realm seems so bleak,
yeah,
right? We're a conduit to that hope, right? We
right,
have just as much information that this could go really bad as this can go really good,
right,
right?
right,
And so, like, our decision making, our guiding is going to be from that place of a more balanced place, right?
right.
And crisis is never convenient. The amount of dinner I walk away from on a phone call
Mhm.
to be helpful to someone, like, we signed up for this,
Right,
right? Like,
right,
it's kind of a silly thing that you're like, oh wait, you want to get called at 9 o'clock at night on a Tuesday?
right.
And like pretty much I'm going to vacation next week, and my wife goes, hey, to all of her family, like, hey, just so you know, when Curtis goes on vacation, that's when he gets the most calls. So just don't,
Always. I
just
always
be
say
mindful
that.
if he's
As soon as I get on
on
a
the phone,
plane,
you know?
my phone blows up.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, you guys,
Yeah, like that's what
families
we
can
do.
smell it. And they just start
Right.
calling,
And that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
so honored
Yeah.
to be that person,
right,
Yeah.
right?
right.
And
to
even if I
Jen's
can't
point, it's someone
answer, like I'll text you right back and tell you when I can.
Thank you.
exactly,
Right.
Yeah.
and to Jen's point, someone answered the phone for my family and guided them,
Thank you.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
and I wouldn't be doing this had someone not taken the time,
Yep.
Right.
right? And
Yeah,
so
I still know the
sometimes-
admissions person my mom spoke to, 20
Really?
whatever years ago, because he did. His name was Matt, and he walked my mother through this whole process. She didn't know anything
Mhm.
about anything. And so I think it is important, to let these families know we're not going anywhere. There's no judgment, there's no shame, and that we're here and that we're going to help walk through this with you. And if not with us, we're going to warmly hand you off to a few programs that may be a fit based on what you're telling me. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Exactly.
guys, I want to say thank you for being here on
Thank
Connect
you.
Call. You guys have been great.
Yay.
Your
Two of my
website's
favorite people right here.
right here.
seriously,
And if anybody wants to check out Desert Willow Wellness or Driftwood, their links will be on our show notes, and you can reach out to Jen and Curtis directly. So there you go.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
All right. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Connect Call. As we conclude, remember that insights shared are intended for informational and educational purposes only and should not substitute professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. We strongly recommend consulting a qualified medical health professional or healthcare provider for personalized advice tailored to your unique needs. Your mental health journey is important, and having the right support is essential. If you're experiencing a mental health crisis or require immediate assistance, please reach out to a mental health provider or emergency services in your area. We're grateful to have you as part of our community, and your well-being remains our priority. So follow us on social media to stay connected, and be sure to catch one of our episodes on our YouTube channel. We're here to support you every step of the way.